a train, for its type, is the most powerful vehicle on land. And the engines of Sodor are the power behind the docks, industries and branch lines that make up the world-renowned Northwestern Railway. These are the stories of Sodor. In the opening months of 1959, Sodor was experiencing another tourism boom thanks to the airing of a television documentary. Harold had assisted with the production by transporting the crew to various locations and helping them with cinematography. The program provided an in-depth look into Sudrian life and included interviews with staff, locals, and engines. Well received, it encouraged people to visit the island. As before, every business reported a surge in traffic. However, I'm sorry to say, not everything was rosy. This second wave brought with it a marked rise in vandalism, trespassing, and destruction of property. You see, the documentary delved deeply into the legend of King Godred, highlighting one aspect in particular. King Godred's treasure. Is that as self-explanatory as it sounds? Yep, old King Ori buried his money right before he scarpered. Did he really? If you believe Bruce's version, yes. It's not just my version, Reggie. Alright, yes. There are those who believe Godred buried his fortune before he vanished, almost as if he knew he wouldn't be coming back. And I assume attempts have been made to find it. Especially in recent times, a few dodgy merchants have been selling counterfeit maps to tourists. The twits then follow them to wherever they say the treasure's buried and start digging. Backyards, parks, sidings, and everything in between have been violated by these fools. But they're not just looking for gold and jewels, they're after the crown. What crown? Coldy's crown. The legend says it bestows immortality upon those who wear it, but at the cost of one's sanity. It's thought Coldy was such a tyrant because he had ruled Sodor for centuries before Godred invaded and had completely lost his mind by then. And those looking for it are just as balmy. I once asked a bloke why he wanted it, knowing the risks. He said, losing your marbles is a small price to pay to live forever. Doubtless that's what Godred thought, or he wouldn't have worn it. Perhaps madness drove him to bury his treasure and sent him up Coldy Fell believing his nemesis had returned. Perhaps as a laugh you should tell people Godred buried his treasure up there. See how many go looking for it. I wouldn't do that. I'd be too depressed by the number of people who surely would. Greed makes people do foolish things. Greed's not that bad. Greed is good. It's why we've got it so much better than the communists. You're an ardent capitalist, aren't you, Bruce? And proud of it. Better dead than red. I heard that. How? But getting back to the treasure, something needs to be done before things get worse. I have the perfect solution. Lock up anyone doing it and throw away the key. Wait, Hainsley said the exact same thing on the radio this morning. You like that, Pratt? Yeah, I do. A lot of what he says makes sense, and we do need tougher penalties for treasure hunters. They dug up the flippin' vicarage for crying out loud. There are better ways of punishing crimes than incarceration. Like what? A stern talking to? When does that ever work? Every time Mr. Zorro reprimanded you back in the day. Fair call. What do you think, Sheffy? That Reginald's right. Something needs to be done, and fast. If not, the wrong sort of people might go looking for it. Right, where was we? I have no idea. I guess that doesn't make you the brains around here. I'll try you instead. I want you to sneak onto the Hainsley estate and dig something up. Yep, it's just as balmy the second time. Dig something up? You're looking for Godred's treasure or something? That's right, Godred's treasure and his magic crown. I want to live forever. No, you twit. It's a crate. You'll find it buried in front of a large rock on the eastern side of the grounds. How do you know? I was the one who buried it. Don't ask why. You don't need to know. Then why do you need us? Why don't you go get it yourself? Because the Hainsley estate is near the Skarloey Railway. I'm too recognisable around there. I'm taking a big risk being here at all. I'll say, it takes stones to come back after what you and your brother did. What my brother did. I had nothing to do with that Knapford Harbour business, if you say so. So who's the gov? Who are we doing this for? You're doing it for me. That's all you need to know. And I suppose we don't need to know what's inside the crate? No, you don't. You're doing a good job keeping us in the dark there, mate. You a spy or something? No, they kill their targets quick, and if you botch this up or look inside the crate, you can kiss your fingers goodbye. Clear? Crystal? Good. Call me when you're done. Ta-da. I hate these flippin' northern monkeys. I hate these flippin' southern fairies. Please tell me the animal survived? It did. The bullet only grazed a leg, but Dennis saw it happen and is absolutely distraught. Flipping treasure hunters. Now they've crossed the line. If it was treasure hunters, who else could it be? I don't know, but Ivo told me that place used to be the home of Tom McKinley, the founder and chairman of the Sodor branch of the British Union. He was responsible for setting up those rat bags, the swine. I'll say, how many times did we chase away their black shirts on the MSR? Too many. But they were dismantled during the war. Everyone got arrested after they tried to blow up Nafford Harbour. Maybe not everyone. There's always been the suspicion some got away. But nobody can ask McKinley since he was found dead after the failed bombing. The SS tying up loose ends? More likely a Union member not wanting to be implicated. No matter who did it or why, you can be sure Hainsley is going to use this. Come on, Falcon, he's not like that. He's a politician, Stuart. If he doesn't leverage a personal tragedy to his advantage, then he's a fool. And he obviously has no scruples since he lives in the house of a former fascist. Actually, his choice of home goes well with his policies. Can you believe he actually wants to limit the power of trade unions? Sounds like a perfectly good idea to me. They're lumbering dinosaurs. That's rich coming from you, Grandpuff. Unions give the working man power, influence, and a voice. And what do they do with it? Demand unrealistic conditions from employers and threaten to strike if these aren't met. They're the instrument of extortionists. They're the reason why workers have it so much better here than anywhere else in the world, even those under communism. Of course, what's happening in the Eastern Bloc is a travesty. That's a relief. For a moment I thought your paintwork was going to turn red. I'm not that far gone, Grandpuff. Better dead than red. I heard that. How? Can we talk about something else, please? Politics makes me nauseous. Who was that man you were talking to this morning, Duke? A military historian from South Africa. He's writing a book about a company of soldiers that was formed on Sodor to fight in the Second Boer War. I knew some of the men who joined. You never told us that. Why would I? It wasn't many, but they've since passed away. The man looked so unhappy, until I pointed him in the direction of a certain surviving veteran. Who? Is daar nog iets waarmee ik hen kon helpen? Nee, ik denk dat kon alles. Vraag er als u meer inlichting bent door ik. Excellent, dit was als heerlijk om jou te ontmoeten with. Ook jij, Vickers, kan je de rij van Untai op Sodor. Dank je, tot ziens. Tot ziens. Hi, Rosie. Hi, Whiff. Sorry to eavesdrop. Actually, I don't know if I should apologize. I didn't understand a single word. What was that? Afrikaans. Where did you learn Afrikaans? South Africa? Ha ha, very funny. I'm not joking, Rosie. Didn't you know I served in the Second Boer War? No. I mean, I knew you used to be in the army, but I didn't know. Are you being serious? Very. I'm surprised you hadn't heard. It's no secret. I've bored the lads to death so many times over the years with tales of my adventures. Gordon reckons my penchant for storytelling rubbed off on Edward. What was it like? Wild and untamed. A beautiful country even during a time of war. I didn't see much combat. I mostly delivered troops and munitions. I also carried out a few medical evacuations. During one of these operations, I met a young ambulance worker named Gandhi and an even younger war correspondent named Churchill. Oh, come on, now you're just teasing. That's exactly what he said. He was interviewing me about my experience. I had a blast reminiscing until he started asking questions about the Great Diamond Heist. Ever heard of it? Boy, have I. When a whole crate of diamonds is stolen during a war, it gets talked about. Were you involved? I was the engine pulling the train. The Boers blocked the line by chopping down a tree, then blew up the tracks behind me so I couldn't escape. All I could do was sit there while the mongrels nicked off with the diamonds. How much were they worth? As Mr. Churchill put it, enough that their loss would be mourned by every crowned head on earth. To this day, I reckon it was an inside job as they knew exactly which truck to hit. You have any idea? Attention! Attention! Oh no. Oh no, it's right. What is going on here? Why aren't you working? That ship is scheduled to leave at 1400 hours. We're on schedule, Benson. I was just having a chat with Whiff. You can chat on your own time. For now, move those trucks. I have an important delivery for the ship's dispersing office. More of those letters from the bank? That is none of your concern. This is a military matter, and you are no longer military. Your job of delivering fuel is done, so I want you out of this facility on the double. Meaning he should take double the time to leave? That's enough insubordination out of you, missy. Get your pistons pumping and move it sharpish. Sir, yes, sir. That goes for you too, Whiff. I'm going. Nice seeing you again, Benson. Have fun with those letters. In case it wasn't obvious, letters from the bank was the infrequently used code for money. An open secret about Britain's post trains is they had been used by the banks for years to move their cash across the country, but it might shock you to learn they never came with security. Anonymity was their only defense. Nobody ever knew how much cash was on board, if any. This might sound completely mad, but I would argue it worked. After all, in the entire history of the post train, only one was ever successfully robbed, and that was in 1963. So why am I bringing this up? Because the extra tourists flocking to Sodor injected a huge amount of money into its economy. Naturally, this meant the size and frequency of cash shipments leaving the island increased, which made some of us extremely anxious. Speaking of anxious, the Sudrian Council certainly was. The latest victim of alleged treasure hunters was the estate of Sean Hainsley, Sodor's Member of Parliament. Infuriated by this personal attack, he lobbied hard to regulate all treasure hunting on the island. A permit was now required, and those caught operating without one were arrested, jailed, and fined. A Get Tough order was issued to the police, and they cracked down hard on unauthorized excavations and those selling counterfeit maps. This couldn't have been what the thieves intended, but it's what they got. I always knew you two were muppets, but this takes the cake. Do you have any idea how much you've bucketed things up for me? This crate should have been off the island days ago, but since the coppers are out in force, that's not our problem, Barry, or our fault. You didn't mention anything about dogs. You ever hear of a country estate not having dogs? I didn't hear any mention about this country estate. We're not going to get rabies for you. Aye, you can't pay us enough for that. Or to keep guarding this thing. You want to keep us on, we'll need more money. You've been getting more, and you flippin' shouldn't. I warned you what would happen if you botched this up. And last I checked, I've still got all me digits. I think you're full of rubbish. Really? Then ask your lady love about Nick the Greek. Anyway, I don't need you two no more. I've organised to ship this thing off the island, so we're done. Well, thank you very much. Can't say it was a pleasure. Me neither. Now bugger off. What a prat! And who's Nick the Greek? This wannabe hard man who broke into Barry's house. The mongrel caught Nick and gave him the sweet and sour pork treatment. What the flip is that? He tied him to a chair, pulled down his trousers, lathered his bollocks in honey, and then brought in a very hungry pig. Nick was singing sopranos afterwards. Barry's a windbag, but he's still dangerous. And we're done with him. Now we can go back to post offices and cars. Why don't we go after something bigger? How much bigger? Typical baseless fear-mongering. Oh, stop griping. They're just words. Words can hurt, Jeffrey, especially when they're being used to scapegoat others. Mr. Hainsley said communists and those who think like them are enemies of the state. He's not entirely wrong. Would you call me an enemy of the state? Only if you advocated the death of democracy, which I don't. I believe in freedom of speech and thought. All speech and thought, not just what's fashionable and patriotic. I agree with that. Then what's the problem? No problem. We fought 2 world wars in defense of freedom, and communism is a threat to that. It's being misused, I'll give you that, but any type of philosophy can if given to the wrong people, and communism too often gives powers to those kinds of people. Now half of Europe lives in tyranny because of it. We must be vigilant to ensure that doesn't happen here. I like you, Jeffrey, but sometimes you sound like such a drone. If it means keeping this great country of ours free, that's a burden I'm willing to bear. Better dead than red. Wait a minute. Wait a minute! What the flip, Jeffrey? What's wrong? The lucky lamp is on the track. You're joking. No word of a lie. Look. How in blazes? I swear, this thing has a mind of its own. Yes, quite. Why do I have a sudden feeling of deja... What was that? Oh no. Oh, it's just... Oh, look at me, spooked by a deer. How ridiculous. Son of a... Stupid bird. Why did I let you talk me into this? Because there's 50,000 quid up for grabs. So says the little bint you've been tumbling with from the bank. How does she know? And what makes you think we'll succeed where Bricktop and his lads failed? I used to work for the railways, Kenny. The pulse vans are now vacuum fitted, so they don't need brake vans no more. We won't have to worry about any armed guards. What about the engine? What's to stop it from puffing away? That's why we need to cut the brake pipes. The engine won't be able to move once that happens. Well, where is the engine then? Where's the train stand? I don't know. Stop your moan. Evening, boys. Holy mother! Where did you come from? Over there where your lorry's parked, Kenny. Care to explain what you and Stan are doing out here? Yes, we would. That was a rhetorical question. I overheard your conversation. It's not going to happen. And who's going to stop us? You? That's right. Maybe you've forgotten how to count, old fella, but there's 2 of us and only 1 of you. So it's a fair fight. I've got a gun. The same one you used to shoot my grandson's dog. Maybe if you shot my son-in-law, I'd be more forgiving. But this? I hope your affairs are in order. Turn around and leave, Grandad, before you get hurt. Say that again. What? Say that again. Turn around. Don't worry, old Bailey didn't shoot those prats, though I'm sure he wanted to. He roughed them up, no question, which landed him in jail. He didn't spend too long behind bars thanks to his son-in-law. Being the victim of the crime, Mr. Hainsley wanted the offenders prosecuted hard. Hoping to cut a deal, they sold out their employer, Barry McKinley, Tom McKinley's brother. The police caught up with him and found the crate. Inside, they discovered documents detailing the full extent of the British Union's crimes and the list of people involved. Among these names were prominent politicians and businessmen, some of whom had escaped justice following the events at Knapford Harbour. When asked why he wanted these documents, Barry admitted he worked for a crime boss who planned to use them to extort money and influence from these figures. What followed was a massive operation that gutted many crimes and careers. Hainsley took a lot of the credit for this and used it to get re-elected the following year. We felt conflicted by this, but had to admit the regulations he introduced did wonders to curtail treasure hunting. From then on, most attempts to find King Godred's treasure were legal. The ones that weren't, they were swiftly shut down. I'm pleased to say Dennis's dog made a full recovery just in time for an important visitor. But that is a story for another day.